Tottenham are set to sign not one but two players in the next couple of days, as a third could very, very shortly follow. And today we're joined by Alex, the Euro expert, to discuss who these players are and to get the lowdown on Tottenham's new signings. Before we do dive into all of that, let's welcome Alex. Alex, it's an absolute pleasure to have you back on the channel. How are you getting on today?
I'm doing very, very good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back on. It's been a while. You guys didn't really have much news, but we're back. So, yeah, it's good to be back.
Exactly. It was such a quiet few months. There was just nothing to talk about. But here we are. We're back with news on Bryan Gil, Cristian Romero, and Pierluigi Gollini. And before we do dive into who these players are and what type of players Tottenham are signing, we're going to bring you up to date on the latest news. And Fabrizio Romano has been talking on the Here We Go podcast, and he has essentially confirmed again what he's been saying, that a deal has been agreed between Tottenham and Sevilla, and the clubs are now working on personal terms for the respective players to try and get this one over the line. But a permanent deal is going to be completed. Now, the deal is Bryan Gil coming to Spurs and Eric Lamela going to Sevilla, bringing €25 million with him for his new bosses over there. And what is a pretty big deal for Spurs when you're looking at the lack of money that we apparently have, and now going for a player that isn't really in a priority position. It's a good signing nonetheless. I'm sure Alex will be telling us all about that. The latest on Gollini is, as it was yesterday, Here We Go from Fabrizio Romano. The deal is an initial 1 year loan deal with the potential for that to be extended to 2 years, and then an option to buy for €15 million. That option to buy, however, will become an obligation to buy if Pierluigi Gollini plays 20 games for Spurs throughout the duration of his loan. So you would expect, if it does go to 2 years, that we would end up seeing that one made permanent. And the latest on Cristian Romero isn't as advanced as that. It is just advanced talks between Tottenham and Atalanta. But as Romano has said, there's still a big gap in the valuation between in Atalanta's valuation of the player and Tottenham's. So nothing really to discuss on that one just yet. But we will definitely talk about Romero and who he is. But we are going to start, Alex, with Bryan Gil. And one of the first things I saw when this news broke out a while ago was you tweeting that if this is what Paratici is doing, well, he's off to a good start. And I suppose you're just a big fan of Gil, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And I think the thing that really makes me admire this, from Paratici's perspective first, is obviously I don't think he's got off to, the smoothest of starts at Tottenham. And that one of the worries was coming in for me was his negotiations have been a bit patchy. He's overpaid for some players and sometimes undersold for others. I remember Ogbonna leaving Juventus for West Ham, and he went for what, 9 million. He was sold 13. Going on to Bryan Gil, what's interesting is that he's been the subject of bids before and interest before, but the release clause was so high that Sevilla could basically price anyone out. So anyone doesn't know, in Spain, every player needs a release clause. So Tottenham and Paratici swapping 25 million in Lamela is quite genius. Especially because swap deals don't happen often. You have to praise him for it. And there is a reason that Bryan Gil is. I feel like there's two reactions. The big reaction to Premier League fans was, who? And the other reaction was like, oh, wow, okay, Tottenham have done some serious business here.
Yeah, and to be honest, I was the first one. The question I asked was who, and I figured out what the answer to that was, and I'm definitely on the other side now. I saw a tweet a while ago saying Tottenham fans have turned into owls on Twitter today, which it is essentially what's happened. But you mentioned the swap deal there, and that is, it's the second time now Spurs have gone about that way with a deal this season. Interestingly, both of them with Sevilla. The first one we apparently agreed for Kunde, that's fallen apart. But Lamela being a player that Sevilla have wanted for a while, I think it's a very clever way of breaking that down. And just for anyone who's watching, the release clause I think that has been reported for Bryan Gil is €43 million. So by paying 25 million and Eric Lamela, we are essentially valuing him at €18 million, which is a lot more than I think we would have gotten in any straight deal for him. But look, who is Gil? He's a left winger. Again, you're a big fan of him. What initially made you fall in love with this player?
So the thing that really I think Spencer will like, especially, is I've tweeted it just before I came along as well. A lot of people are asking the answers to this. I said he reminds me of a certain player, and everyone's wondering who. On the ball, only dribbling wise, he's especially reminiscent of an early Eden Hazard. He's fantastic he's fantastic at standing a defender up and gliding past them. I think the one thing you can look at with him is when he's dribbling, he's just one of those players who makes so many small touches of the ball and he's able to change direction at any speed. And like, if we could go into the numbers as well, he completes 2.3 dribbles per game. I think he's in the top 25 for dribbles per night in La Liga. And one thing I was telling Matt before as well, Gil is one of the rarest profile players you can get. And to go into that, Gil, as we said, he's a left-footed left winger. Now, for most of people, that would probably think, goes straight over the head. But there's a reason players like Hill and players like Oyarzabal, Liam Bailey, they're the players that people like Pep Guardiola have chased, is that only about 22% of players in the top 5 leagues are left-footed, and anyone who's a winger who's left-footed gets shifted onto the right so they can cut inside, and even if you go to FIFA ways, they can finesse into the top corner. But having, Bryan Gil on the left, what is really good and what he's shown on loan at Eibar last season, he came for Sevilla, but that's where he's on loan, is that he can dart down the line and put in a really good cross. And he completed the 11th most crosses in La Liga last season. Look at me rewinding the stats straight off my head. but yeah, he's a very rare type of player. I think to go into the weaknesses about him is that, well, first of all, he's grown up in Spain, so it's probably going to be of a language barrier, a bit of a culture change. He's only 20 years old coming to Tottenham. Also, his critics will say he is not physically well built and he doesn't have too many goals and assists. I would say to that, he's only 20 and last season he got 4 goals, 3 assists. So people could slow down on that. But he has still got a bit of, there's a reason I said young Eden Hazard. He can run into blind alleys. Sometimes he'll just have his head down. He won't be looking up and making the right pass. You can see that even in the highlights where I've tried to make him look as good as possible. So there's time to go, but he's got so much talent, and there's a reason that people like Fabrizio and other people have said, outside of Barca and Real Madrid, this has been the player that most people have said is the most talented in Spain.
That it's honestly incredible to hear these sort of positive things said about a player Spurs are actually going to sign. Just to bring an update, in the last couple of minutes, Fabrizio Romano has tweeted, Bryan Gil to Tottenham and Eric Lamela to Sevilla swap deal now to be completed, also on personal terms side. Both players will join the new club on a permanent deal. Here we go. Paperwork's ready to be signed soon. Sevilla will receive €25 million as part of the deal. So we started the stream saying the personal terms were still to be agreed. Fabrizio Romano now confirming those have been agreed. And speaking of Romano, something he said earlier today on his on the Here We Go podcast, he compared Gil to Federico Chiesa. And I've seen so many of these comparisons. One of them was to Johan Cruyff, not just in the way he looks, but apparently in the way he plays as well. So you've heard, Cruyff, Chiesa, now you're bringing Eden Hazard. The sky really does seem to be the limit for this guy. And I was reading the breakingthelines.com analysis of him earlier today, and one of the things they said is that he still needs to develop a bit more before he can get that big move, and maybe he's not quite at that level just yet. Would you have any concerns for him in terms of stepping up into a big team like that? Because I'm sure there's a reason that Sevilla didn't kind of think he was good enough to be in their starting team last season. Do you think he's able to make that step now?
I don't think he is right now, but I don't think it's too many years away. Like I said, I think if he was to start many Premier League games, there's a danger he could almost get Daniel James. Like, his end product isn't there, and a bit like Daniel James, his final third decision making isn't all there either. Like I said, he can go on his mazy dribbles and he can look really good, but he'll look up and he realize 2 passing options have gone. Or sometimes I think we read the same article on Breaking the Lines, he doesn't quite make the runs you want him to make. But it's more that, the technical natural ability is really there. And the Chiesa and Cruyff comparisons, the Cruyff one is, I think, a bit insane. Like that should be a bit. That's only because it should be bestowed on the players. That should be bestowed on an Mbappe or someone. But I can get where they're coming from. The Chiesa one, I kind of see it, but for me, the Hazard one, at least in his dribbling wise, I think if anyone after the stream is to go and watch a highlight reel of Hill, just pay attention to how well he changes direction at speed, and how, in a similar way to Hazard, you're looking at the defenders and wondering why aren't they just slicing him down. And it's because he's already gone before they've put a foot in. So I think that's the one to look at. But yeah, as you said, he's not quite ready to make the step up yet. So don't expect him to start. But in the coming years, it's a very good purchase. It's definitely a good swap for Eric Lamela.
Yeah, that's my favourite part. This 29-year-old player that we bought 8 years ago, he scored, I think, 16 goals for us, 23 assists. He's never really got going on a reported £100,000 a week. To get him off the books, I think, as part of this deal, is something that makes it all that more special. And I streamed earlier today about 1:30, kind of in a news roundup stream, and I was talking about how I think he at Spurs will be played on the right hand side, because you're looking at Son being our main left winger. It's going to take a lot to displace him, but putting Hill on the right hand side, he can kind of work a little bit better with an overlapping fullback. Because again, on that article from Breaking the Lines, they were saying sometimes him and a left back kind of get in each other's way because they're both trying to go down the line. Whereas on the right hand side, he can, Doherty or Aurier or Tomiyasu, whoever it is, can go down the outside, and maybe that space will be there for him on the inside. Do you think being on the right hand side would suit him, or is the magic about him being that classic old fashioned winger, being a left footed player on the left?
It's a good point to make, especially since I said about the left footed thing. Now, he could, I think he can play on the right, and it's not necessarily to say, that because he's been brought up this way, shifting into the right's going to take away from his ability. The unique thing to look at for Spurs fans is that he has proven himself to be that left-sided, natural left attacking midfielder. And I know that might sound a bit like comical, like, oh, anyone could do that. Just put, I know, Talvin on the left to Marseille or whatever. He's just left-footed on the left. But it's about getting the crosses in and things like that, and his movement. I said he gets in the way of his fullback at times, but still he's proven well. And on the right, I think what would show is his dribbling, because he does like to come inside. So it would offer up a lot of space for the fullback. I think what would be interesting to see is when Nuno plays in, because I think we'll get into it, Romero as well. I wonder if he will play three at the back, because I know with Nuno at Wolves, he would play Traore and Neto on their natural sides, like Traore right-footed on the right, Neto left-footed on the left. So it'd be interesting. Like I said, I don't think he'll start, but a rotation option maybe for both sides.
Yeah, the formation question with Nuno is one that I'm really struggling to answer, because we're hearing reports that he'd play a four at the back. Then we're also hearing reports that he wants to get Danny Ings to play in a two up top with Harry Kane. So, you know, I can't really see us playing a 4-4-2 or something like that. I feel like that's just too kind of stubborn and too rigid, even though it is a formation that is kind of coming back into fashion a bit, especially since Leicester winning the league with it back in 2016. But my concern is, if we do play a three at the back, as Nuno usually does, and we do play a two up top, that really takes away from the strength and the numbers that we can have out wide, because you'd imagine it will be wing backs in Reguilon and whoever the hell is going to be on our right hand side, because nobody really knows. And then you'd question where the space is for the likes of Hill or Son or something like that. But it's questions I'm sure we'll get answered as we go on throughout the transfer window. Stuart Gallop in the comment section. Stuart, good to see you. Says, didn't Reguilon attack on the inside when at Sevilla, so Gil on the outside could actually work well to split a defence? Do you know anything about the way they played together there, or even if they did?
Hill hasn't played too many times at Sevilla, but in the limited minutes, I didn't get to watch him last season, but it's probably a fair point to make as well, to be fair. Although, I guess with Reguilon, I prefer him jetting down the left. But I would say, just quickly on the formation thing, you said throughout the transfer window, I reckon by the end of this video, you actually might get an answer to that.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Look, is there anything else you want to say about Gil before we move on? Any exciting snippets for us to look forward to?
I think we've covered him well, and I think it's there because he's definitely the highlight here. We're going to go into, obviously, Gollini and Romero. Romero's the mixed one. Gollini, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, look, we leave Gollini till the end there, just to get people sticking around. It's going to be exciting. But there's one other point I wanted to mention. Something I read on Bryan Gil is that he's really good at pressing as well. It's usually these kind of like little triggers that make him go. And we've seen Tottenham in training working on the pressing. We saw them against Leyton Orient, and we're hearing that it's going to be a very press-based side throughout the season. Whether that's based on triggers or just running around like headless chickens with Spurs, you never know. But we'll have to wait and see how that one goes.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, this is a quick one. He's in the top 3 for IBAR for pressure aren't he? So yeah, he was one of the most aggressive players defending from the front. So that's a good one.
Another incredible stat for us to look at, this player coming into our team. But look, everyone, let me know in the comments if you're looking forward to Bryan Gil coming into Spurs. Again, I have to be honest and say I hadn't a clue who he was this morning, but now he's the only player I want Spurs to sign, just from reading into what we've heard from Alex here. But let me know in the live chat if you are happy with this signing. And we will move on now to Cristian Romero. We're centre back from Atalanta, the Argentinian. I think he's 23 years of age there, as you can see beside me. Valued at £31.5 million by Transfermarkt, but maybe not that much that Spurs will be looking to get him for. But Alex, he won Serie A Defender of the Year last season. He completely transformed that Atalanta defence. Do you think it was warranted?
Yes and no, in a way. I think he excelled well in the Atalanta system, but he's not the perfect defender as of right now. And I think he came into Tottenham. Firstly, this is what I was alluding to before. If he comes into Tottenham, Nuno's playing a back 3, because playing Romero as a centre-back in a four at the back, he's not done it before, and he's completely ill-suited to that. And that's how we can go into last season. So Cristian Romero, Argentinian centre-back, the thing that really shines out about him is that he likes to put his body all over the place. And he played in the centre of the back 3. Now, that might make you think he was the one to drop deep or like spread passes. A bit like Chelsea Thiago Silva. No, he was the one almost acting as a hybrid defensive midfielder and centre-back. He'd be racing into tackles, and then if he missed it, he'd be charging straight back to try and make a recovery. In fact, he made the 4th most recoveries in Serie A last season, which, if you don't know, is just getting the ball back for your team when it's gone behind you. So Romero, yeah, that's his kind of story from last year. And also, he did complete the 2nd most interceptions interceptions in Europe last year. To kind of show, he was pushing out of a defense, getting really busy, and if he didn't win the ball, he would chase back and get it. But as well with that, you can look into this whichever way. It wasn't always to win the ball. He actually, I think he had it written down here. He's in the top 5 of fouls committed in Serie A, and if he got the most yellow cards as well. So he's, in fact, when you look at it and you break it down, on average, Romero gets a yellow card once every 2 games, which which is a bit crazy, right? But yeah, I think he would say he earned it, but I feel like when you think of Defender of the Year, you're thinking of a Van Dijk, of someone who's really clean and tidy. He's an interesting centre back. Perhaps
he's the proper Italian style centre back. Maybe something they just appreciate a bit more over there with the the way they're. I'll use the word tomfoolery that they use throughout the end of the Euros. But it's interesting you mentioned there how he almost plays as a defensive midfield hybrid, because for me that kind of just follows on from the style of centre back that Spurs have been linked to already. But Bryan Cristante was kind of one of the first ones when we were supposed to be bringing in Paulo Fonseca, and essentially the way he played in that Roma side, as I'm sure you know, was kind of stepping up, being that he played in the central but was kind of more advanced within possession more so than his fellow centre backs, kind of being that distributor within there. And Maxence Lacroix as well as Wolfsburg, who is so aggressive coming out of defence, kind of complementing perfectly John Brooks, kind of more disciplined, more kind of regressive centre back there beside him. And if Romero fits into that category, well, it just shows a bit of consistency, I suppose, in the players Spurs are looking for. And if he is playing in the middle of that pack 3, potentially he's a replacement for Toby Alderweireld, because we know Alderweireld wants to leave. He could be moving on to Antwerp, and we need that kind of player, that leader within there. And well, that would just be incredible for us to have. Do you think his ball playing abilities, his long passes, do you think they're good enough to replace what Alderweireld has been for Spurs?
See, this is my catch. He's actually. It's hard to tell because he's only played a couple of proper full seasons in Italy. He first played at Genoa and then he played at Atalanta. But I actually did an interesting comparison with Alderweireld, Rudiger, Ben White, and a few other Premier League centre-backs in various systems. And he finishes bottom of passing into the final third and moving the ball up the pitch. He's really, with his passing, he doesn't get on the ball too often, which is odd for a defender in the back 3. Now, perhaps that was more due to system. Maybe Atalanta want to move the ball wide. You can't always pin it on that. But it was a similar story at Genoa. And in a direct comparison with Alderweireld, it wasn't too far off of him, but it was mentioned in there you would want Alderweireld phased out. I think if you were to go into next season like radically without Alderweireld and with Romero, then it'd be a bit of a problem maybe in defense moving the ball out, at least vertically. Because Romero hasn't proven himself yet as that player. He's a lot more. I saw a good line that someone said he's more than a sweeper. He's more like a stopper, very old school centre back, and I guess reminds me of Mascherano just getting into challenges. I think just to touch on that as well. But I've managed to watch Atalanta a couple of times, quite luckily last year. But if you ever want to watch highlights on him, like on any YouTube video. The thing that's strange about a centre-back's highlights, usually you see them, in the back line, maybe blocking a shot or clearing it. Regularly, you see Romero running back from midfield and making a tackle from behind and winning the ball. And it's always won the ball well. But it's always interesting how he's almost never in that defensive line. He's always chasing back.
Yeah, that's a little bit different to what Spurs are used to last season. It's always been the defenders behind the ball as much as possible. So I think it'll be something that might take a bit of time getting used to. I see one or two mentions there in the live chat, and I've seen it all over Twitter today. So I just want to touch on it quickly with Romero actually currently being on loan at Atalanta. Now I said it on my stream earlier today, and I did a Twitter Spaces as well. So Cristian Romero is currently on paper a Juventus player, and he's on a 2-year loan to Atalanta with an option to buy with the loan ending in 2022. And an option to buy there. Now, that of course complicates things for Tottenham. It complicates everything within this deal. However, Atalanta can trigger that option to buy this season. So they can trigger that this summer. So essentially why Tottenham are in negotiations with them is because if we want to negotiate with Juventus, we will have to wait till next year and run the risk of Romero completing a permanent deal to Atalanta. So if we want to negotiate with Atalanta, we make a bid that they want, that they're happy with. They will then buy the player from Juventus and then we buy him from Atalanta. So it's a very complicated deal, and because of that, this could take a bit longer than any other deal to go through, but that's why we are in talks with Atalanta and not Juventus. Stuart, you're asking how many reds did Romero get? Was he sent off very often?
He wasn't sent off too often. I think, off memory, I think he was sent off 3 times over the last couple of years. So it wasn't too bad. He just commits a lot of fouls, but I wouldn't say too hot-headed rather.
Perfect. And there's another question here. Con Hennessy saying, what's the comparisons between Kunde and Romero? I'm sure Kunde is probably a higher caliber player, but are they maybe similar in style, do you think?
That's a good question, to be fair. I think Kundu's probably a bit more reserved than Romero. Like, think about right now, like I said, if Spurs were to bring in Kunde, I think they could go between systems. With Romero bringing him in, I don't see in one season how he can straight away slot into a back four. It's like he's played in the back three pretty much his whole career in Italy. And it's not like a Rudiger or someone who playing in a back three, he can slot interchange and out. At the moment, he's more like an Alonso. Like if he played in a back four and he plays how he does at the moment, he's gonna leave his partner on his own. It would just be, I guess, I think for the future, it not future in saying like Hill, but over the next 3 or 4 seasons, he'd be a great signing. But I guess if you're going short term, Tomiyasu might make actually slightly more sense because he's cheaper, and as we've seen, he can play left back, centre back, and right back, and he's quite both footed. But definitely Romero, there's a lot. He's a lot different to any other centre back. He definitely get the crowd off their feet as well.
Look, that's all we want. Just a bit of excitement. Look, there's over 500 people watching right now. Please do smash that like button if you are enjoying this stream. If you do want to check out Alex and his channel, as I'm sure you all do, you can click it. He's tagged in the title, tagged in the description, linked in the description, or linked in the pinned comments. So there are 4 different ways there. If you do want to if you do want to go over and check out Alex's channel, I highly recommend that you do. There's many different ways there for you to get to. Just drop subscribe, and you'll definitely get content there that you do enjoy. But Alex, Pierluigi Gollini, talk to
me. My God, I see. I was less worried until the intro where I think you said I saw it as a loan with an obligation to buy or the option to buy, but obligation if he makes over 20 appearances.
Yes.
Now, okay, so let's deal with the idea that Gollini is a backup first. Now, he be coming in with that option to buy for like 15 million. He's 26, and although he's been touted earlier in his career for potential, I don't see him becoming, the next Lloris in the space of time he's got in his career. And he's probably going to be on high wages. So as a backup, that quite shortly doesn't make sense. As a replacement to Lloris, now, so far in the video, I've managed to speak a bit more anecdotally about these players because I've watched them a bit and just the stats are floating on this. I want to get this right because I compared Hill to Hazard. I'm about to crush all of the Spurs heartstrings.
Don't do it.
I'm going to compare Gollini to Kepa Arrizabalaga. So,
get off my channel.
Kepa made 76 appearances for Chelsea, and he's conceded 18 goals from outside of the box and made 7 errors. Now, Gollini's played a bit more than that, 85, and it's not as bad, but in 85 games, about 9 more, he's also made 5 errors and conceded 17 goals from outside of the box since he joined. Which that's really bad for a keeper. I don't understand it. And for the people who like expected goals over the last 2 seasons, Gollini's conceded about 4.9 goals, and he should have. So if you're buying a goalkeeper to be a first choice, I don't know why you're buying a goalkeeper who's negative in that stat. I'd like to go back in his career. He actually came from Man United in their youth academy, and then he went to Aston Villa shortly after, moved to Italy, came back, went to Aston Villa, and got displaced by Sam Johnstone, I believe. But, save rate 63% as well. That's close to Kepa at 60%. I think it's close to Jordan Pickford in his really bad season last year. And the other thing I wanted to mention, he's 6'4", which is quite tall for a goalkeeper. But there's a stat that... measures how well a keeper is at stopping crosses. Basically, measures gives a percentage of the amount of crosses they catch or punch. Gollini was 19th in Serie A for that measure. He stops 5% of his crosses. So, like I said, go on.
Do you know what's interesting? I actually saw. I tweeted out a while ago. I saw people saying we shouldn't get Gollini because he was bad at Villa, so he's not good for England. And a Villa fan actually he replied to it and he said Gollini was actually quite. Not decent, but he was all right for them. But one of the things where he really suffered on or struggled with back then was coming out and claiming crosses. So it's actually concerning to hear that's still a big issue in his game.
Yeah, that's even more worrying. Yeah, because like you said, just because he played Met at Villa and the context of Villa, it wasn't as if he he left because he played badly or anything. Villa fan who said he was probably all right. It's true. He actually left because he fell out of the manager after a better team, Matteo, got sacked. So he went back to Italy due to that. So yeah, it's not necessarily that it was forced out of there, but yeah, Atalanta as well. I mean, he's only made 26 appearances in the league, which at first I thought, okay, maybe he was injured. He wasn't. He wasn't injured. Like, he's not been ruled out of any games. He just simply hasn't been trusted to play all 38, unless there's an injury that's not been listed on transfer marks and for breath that I'm not aware of. So, yeah, I don't understand why he would be brought in for a Lloris replacement. And if he's a backup, it's just expensive.
Yeah, God, you just really burst my bubble on that one, I'll be honest.
But Bryan Gil's really good. Bryan Gil's really good.
Exactly. He's good. We're getting Cruyff, Chiesa, and Hazard in one. That's what you're hearing here. Well, I do want to play a clip really quickly. Because I did have Fabrizio Romano on the channel yesterday, and I was talking to him about Gollini. So for any Spurs fan who's immediately kind of upset about the deal, I just want to play it. It's only about a minute long, but here's what Romano had to say on Gollini yesterday.
Many clubs from Spain, from Italy have been asking for this goalkeeper because he's been one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A for many years, has been also in the national team. Then he had some problems with the manager, Gasperini, and that's why Atalanta decided to go for Musso, for another goalkeeper from Udinese. Now, Gollini is one of the biggest opportunities on the market, and Fabio Paratici is always keen on the big opportunities. As I said, it's not only Tottenham, but for sure Tottenham are in the race. They had contact with the player. He was already playing in the Premier League because he started his career at Manchester United Academy, and then he was moving to Aston Villa in Championship. So he's always been close to English football, and he will love to be back at top level in English football. So let's see if Tottenham could find an agreement with Atalanta, if any other club will jump in the deal. But I can confirm that he is one of the potential options for Tottenham this summer. And in my opinion, it would be really interesting because I remember one year ago or 2 years ago, Inter, Roma, many clubs, also AC Milan, wanted to sign Gollini, and Atalanta were asking for 30 or 35 million euro. Now is a big opportunity because they signed another goalkeeper, and so Gollini is on the market, and would be really, really interesting for Tottenham to sign this kind of player.
Now, I see your face there. What's interesting, what I'm going to take from that is he started out well with Atalanta, but following whatever happened with the manager and all that, things just may have gone really wrong for him in the last year. Because if 12 months ago Inter and Juve were willing to pay 35 million and they were doing everything to hold on for him, and now they're accepting 15 million euro, he couldn't have had a decent season. Like I don't see within reason why that would happen.
I guess I think Romano's mentioned, like, I half mentioned one positive that I agree with, another one. I think the one positive is that he's going to slot probably straight into the squad. He's going to know a bit of English, or quite a significant amount, so he should be all right there. Like, just on that aspect. But the only other thing that I did catch my eye is that he's actually been one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A for defensive actions outside the box, i.e. sweeper keeper. So he's very good at getting outside the box and making defensive actions and making a lot of passes as well. So good with the ball at his feet and good. He's confident going outside of the box, but just in saving shots, I have to disagree with the great Fabrizio Romano there, because not only with the stats, but I remember there's a game against Genoa where there's just a couple of goals that went in where sometimes it feels like he's diving quite late, or quite, as a goalkeeper as well, who suffers from this. Sometimes he feels he dives quite over dramatically, which
the David De Gea factor.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. I'm very unconvinced on Gollini, and the stats kind of back that up. In fact, whereas Cristian Romero, by who scored, they put in as well. He was second most interceptions in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think I said Serie A earlier. Second most interceptions per game in Europe's top 5 leagues, just behind Kante. He was the top-rated centre-back by who scored on in Serie A. Whereas Gollini, he was like a 6.5 rating, which is it's like average to below average. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, that's why I love having you on the channel, because you will back your opinion right to the hilt, and you always have the stats to back it up. So I really, really love that. But yeah, you mentioned there as well, his ability on the ball and the keeper sweeper. He is a modern day keeper, which is something that we quite haven't really had with Lloris, as Temple says there. He's the opposite of Lloris. So Lloris, whenever he has the ball at his feet, a Spurs fan, you can hear screams all over the world of people watching that as a Spurs fan, because he's just not good enough. And coming off his line as well, he's always been a bit inconsistent. Like, there's quite a few clips of him against Manchester City especially, which is weird, where he'll come off his line and just completely flop his lines, and we'll end up conceding. But Look, it's one that we'll see how it pans out over the next couple of months, maybe next couple of years, as this deal is expected to be completed. But look, Alex, I'd say we wrap it up there because it's been an absolutely incredible show. And again, thank you so much for your time coming on here. There's still 600 people left in the live chat, so please do hit that like button. Subscribe here if you are new, because we will be talking so much more about these transfers over the next couple of days and what is expected to be a very, very, very busy 7 to 10 days for Spurs as we look to get some players in for Nuno Espirito Santo before the players return for pre-season. Alex, let us know what your channel is about and why people should go over and subscribe, and of course your Twitter as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, you can go over to my YouTube channel, Euro Expert, where I'm a neutral fan, don't support Tottenham or anything. So I make videos for just football in general. In fact, I've got a video coming out next week that will be ranking the top 5 leagues statistically in a way no one's actually done before. And just as a tidbit there, where me and my team managed to have a look at the top 5 leagues in goalkeeping, and we found that the Bundesliga is the worst league in Europe, one of the top 5 for goalkeepers. So you can expect, the average German goalkeeper concedes 2.5 goals more per season than a Premier League goalkeeper. Little interesting thing. And if you had any questions about this video in particular, go to my Twitter or TikTok, follow me at EuroExpert, DM me, and we'll have a chat. I'll reply back to everyone.
I absolutely love that. Everyone, I cannot recommend enough that you go over and check out Alex on all those platforms. His TikTok as well, just to mention, does some incredible brief synopsis and analysis of players. And it's where I learned the majority of what I know about Takehiro Tomiyasu. He made that video on my request, which I really appreciate. Everyone, honestly, go over and check him out. The links to his YouTube are in, as I said, the title, the description, and the pinned comment. And head over to his Twitter and his TikTok as well to check him out there. But again, look, Alex, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. We'll just get a quick look at the numbers to see how many people we had in here. So 2,300 people tuning in over the last half an hour, which are incredible numbers. So thank you to all of you for tuning in. And again, subscribe. We're on the road to 10k before the season starts. I'm hoping to maybe get there in the next couple of days, if that's not too optimistic. So please do support the channel if you haven't already. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.